What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video, we are going over Solana as its price has now been rejected off the 50 moving average, which historically has seen some pretty ugly things happen after a rejection of that nature. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what this could mean and exactly how I'm going about it. So of course, do stay tuned to the end whenever I tell you my exact game plan for the next couple days. So looking at Solana, of course, what we have been tracking have been a few things, right? So of course, on a broad sense, the macro sense, we have been tracking the breakout from the key trend line in which we had been stuck in from realistically like November to March-ish. Now, once we got this breakout here, we have been talking about the fact that Solana will historically break out of that trend line, come back down, retest at 618 to 786 level, retest at 50 moving average, and then continue. That's kind of its pattern. That's what it likes to do in order to establish enough support to continue towards the upside. Now, what we've been talking about, though, was the fact that though this one does look different than what we usually see, of course, being influenced by the rest of the market as Bitcoin itself is falling, we have been seeing some similarities that we definitely can still be considering, okay? Now, looking at Solana at this point, what we can see, though, is that usually speaking, when we get back above the 50 moving average, it is quite essential that we hold above it, okay? It is quite essential that we hold above it and continue to the top side, as we looked to be doing right here. We looked as if we were going to hold it as support and continue upwards, because we can see that this is a key area of importance. Even when Solana trends back downwards for some time, come back to the 50 moving average and continue. But the moment we start to lose it, bad things start to happen. And when we get rejected by it, even worse things start to happen. And so considering the fact that we have been rejected off of it at this point, as we have continued back to the downside, we need to start to be very aware that we are kind of in a final stand moment, that if Solana doesn't make this final stand, establish support in the zone in which we're about to talk about, and continue up pretty soon, we definitely could be seeing a fall back towards the sub 80 level. I think we could possibly see under $80, which puts us under the range in which we had seen just earlier this year. So looking at what we have been seeing in the short term, okay, what we can see is that we are in a descending wedge. Now, as we enter into this descending wedge, we are also entering into the most crucial zone of support that Solana has. That is the 618 to 786 level whenever you track your macro Fibonacci's. The way in which you find it, of course, is simply by clicking your Fibonacci, going from your swing low all the way up to your swing high. And let me go ahead and just move this out the way. And what we can see here is that this is where we're at right now. We are in the macro Fibonacci. Now, whenever we start to look at what this implies is that if Solana is going to see a bounce, it will more often than not bounce off of this zone and then continue to the top side. That's its history. As we can see here, this was the last example that we had before the big crash in which it did that exactly. We bounced, came back down right to the zone, we went right down to it, then continued to the top side. So considering the fact that we are in a descending wedge, which historically is bullish, what this means is that more often than not guaranteed, but more often than not, we will see Solana's price go into a uptrend off of a descending wedge. It will more often than not break the top side here. But considering the fact that we saw a fake out to the top side, that may add some implications, but we're just going to focus on the fundamental breakdown of it, which says that historically we will see the breakout to the upside. Considering the fact that that is what could be considered bullish, mixed in with the fact that we do still have this most crucial level of support under us, beneath realistically $96 to about $86, one could say that we are still in the realm to see a strong bounce to the upside and recapture our 50 moving average. We can do it. Is it getting less and less and less and less likely every day? Yes. Is it getting less and less likely as we're seeing Bitcoin itself start to, lose some key levels of support? Yes. But does that mean it's impossible? No. So the way I'm currently looking at this is that we are in our final stand, because if Solana fails to hold between $96 and $86 right here, and we lose this zone, do understand that we will very likely start to revisit the bottom side of this range, which looks like $75. Now, looking at this on the shorter time frames, let's talk about what's likely and what's unlikely. So one thing that I notice immediately when I look at what's going on as we are in this descending wedge is that we are seeing a lot of weakness from the bulls, just to be very honest. The way in which you can identify that is you can look for divergences and bullish and bearish divergences. Now, a key example of seeing a bearish divergence play out is this fake out that we saw here. What you can see happen is that as we were putting in these highs, and these highs, and these highs, and these highs, we're putting in at this point lower high after lower high after lower high. But look at how as we start to work our way up, we're putting in higher highs, higher highs, higher highs. Whenever you start to see that the RSI is trending upwards on its highs, we're putting in higher highs, with the price itself putting in lower highs, it means that even just to get up to these lower highs, the bulls are going to have to put in even more work. They're trying much harder and they're going to get exhausted much sooner, and we're not even in an uptrend. So that usually does lead to a continuation towards the downside. And as you can see, we got one little wick towards the upside. We tried it. The market started to take off right when like Elon Musk bought Twitter. As you can see, we failed the back test and continued to the bottom side. Solana usually works on its divergences. And what we can see happening right now is the fact that after we put in this high, we continue down, down the line, put in a lower high, but then we translate that down to our RSI here, and we can see that we are once again putting in these higher highs, seeing this bearish divergence to the top side of this descending wedge. So what that tells me is that we need to be very cautious right now, that if we're unable to break towards the top side, if we're unable to realistically clear the bottom or the top side of this descending wedge and break back above 110 to set a new macro regional high, to cancel out all this bearish divergence, we very possibly are in a position to continue towards the downside and continue bouncing to the downside and eventually coming back down to retest this $86 level, which we all know is the last level of support that we have. So looking at this thing, what I would go ahead and say is that in terms of buying, absolutely not right now. Okay. In terms of trading, if you're looking to trade, if you're looking to dollar cost average and you like to just buy it no matter what it's doing, well, this video doesn't necessarily apply to you. But if you're looking to trade, if you're looking to get good justifiable entries, what I would go ahead and say is that right now, as being the fact that we are under a key level of rejection, previously seeing a fake out after losing the daily 50 moving average with bearish divergence on the short terms, I would go ahead and say that it seems to be more likely than not that the price is going to continue towards the downside. Now, what we need to see again, though, is that although that does seem to be the more likely case, that is never ever guaranteed. At any given point, we could start to come back up and flip what looks to be a possible double bottom right here into a major reversal pattern and continue a bounce off of 103 and continue to the top side. That's always within the realm of possibility, but that has not happened yet. And until that happens, it seems more likely that we will continue towards the downside. So my current expectation is that we still have some support. We are still in a position in which we can see a bounce. We are in a position in which this $96 to $86 range can hold because historically it has, but it is absolutely crucial that it holds. Okay. If we start to see the price rolling and continuing towards the downside, and within the next 2 weeks roughly, we start to see this $86 getting interacted with, and we lose it, do you understand? 75 comes into range, but likelihood is when we lose the 786, we usually do come down to set the lower low, which in our position does put us towards the low 70s to even high 60s, which at this point is still a loss, right? I mean, that could possibly be a loss of up to 30 to 40%. All right. So this is Solana's last stand. We need to see this bullish wedge, this descending wedge hold up. We need to see the 618 to 786 level hold up. This is not a video of me saying, it's not even really technical. It's more saying you need to just sit back and watch what happens, because if this happens and we lose this, it's going to get really ugly. But we are in a position in which we can still see that bounce. But I personally am not doing any buying. I'm not going to be doing any trading. I'm not going to really be doing any accumulating on Solana right now until we are capable of seeing the breaking of the descending wedge and the clearing of the most recent macro high, which at this point is still at $110. Buying at any point below that is putting yourself at extreme risk, in my non-financial advisor opinion, of course, of seeing your price of your portfolio collapsing towards the downside as we continue to see this bearish divergence. Okay, so that's just my honest opinion. I know I sound like a real big Debbie Downer right now. Mind you, Solana is my third biggest holding in my entire portfolio, so I want nothing but this thing to continue to the top side, but it is my duty to be able to just inform you with my honest and true opinion and not just shill this thing simply because I hold it for my own personal benefit. Okay, so with that said, please be on the lookout for this. Keep a very close eye on this $96 to $86 range, and do understand that on the short term, we are seeing bearish divergence to the top side. So unless we get a breakout relatively soon, we very likely will start to see a continuation towards the bottom side, which is going to look like us coming back to retest the low 90s to high 80s. So with that said, I'm going to, of course, keep you guys as up to date as I possibly can with the Solana video once every day or once every other day. It is, of course, totally up to you guys. So put in the comment section what you would like to see me post videos about. I have been considering posting a Bitcoin update every single morning and then doing an altcoin analysis, but that is totally up to you as well. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you all next time. Peace.